everybody, I'm Clery here from FourFourTwo, and today we're going to talk about Jhon Duran from Aston Villa, who is a player that I really like because I used to be convinced in my head that that is how you spell John up until the age of like 30. He is a goal-scoring machine, a certifiable bagsman, as the internet might call him, and I've been wanting to do a video on him for a while about why he is so good, but why also that kind of so good that he is means he doesn't often start for Aston Villa. Was that English? All right, so first, tickets to the live show. I told you they would sell out. They have sold out, so thank you very much for that. And the shirts for the 30th birthday, these beautiful, beautiful things. There are still some of those left, sizes small to extra, extra large. So buy one. I'll tell you more about them later. Now, to properly explain the whole Jhon Duran thing, right, we need to give you an Arsene Wenger quote from like 10 years ago. And if you're sitting there going, what? No, man, I'm not here for any of that. I just want to hear about how he's banging all of these worldies. Not like that, and Villa's system and stuff. We will, I promise, we'll get to that. I just need to go on this tangent to give you the proper context. So back in 2015, Wenger says, if you look across, I can't do his voice, if you look across Europe and the world of football, then South America is the only continent to develop strikers today. If you look across Europe, where are the strikers from? You will see that many of them, at least 80%, come from South America. Now, thanks to the dutiful research of Reddit user Elton John's ballbag, I'm not making that up. He actually fact-checked that 80% claim, and it's not right. If you looked at like the top 7 leagues in Europe and then got the top 10 strikers from all those 7 leagues, you get 70 players, and only 19 of them were South American. Which, and I really should have done the maths before I came in here, is like somewhere between 25 and 30%, certainly not 80. But now, let's take a look at last season in the Premier League, right? The top 10 scorers, and there were no South Americans there. In La Liga, it was just Vinicius Jr. In Serie A, it was Martinez, 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏, and Zapata. There was none in Ligue 1, there was none in the Bundesliga, and Jhon Duran and Evan Nielsen in the Portuguese league. So that 19 is now down to like 6. But whoa, back up a second, Adam. Didn't you say this Wenger quote was like important and he was right? This sounds more like a flop era for South American forwards for me, like 19 down to like 6. That's absolutely crap. But if we just zone in on the Premier League's top 10 scorers last season, right, what jumps out at you? Erling Haaland is a pure goal scorer. He's a freak, in fact. And 𝗕𝗓𝗓 Isak, he's also like 90% focused on finishing chances, very rarely gets involved in much else. But every other player is either some kind of like specialist forward or not even one at all. Cole Palmer's an attacking midfielder that everything good about Chelsea has to go through. Phil Foden's a floating creative type. He plays left, right, and centre. Dom Solanke's probably the best pressing forward in the league last year, constantly working off the ball to turn things over. Ollie Watkins is a tactical linchpin of Emery's system. He got nearly as many assists last year as he did goals. Salah is a wide forward who's great on the attack but also has to protect his fullback. Son is a wide forward who was great on the attack but also has to protect his fullback. And Jarrod Bowen is a wide forward. You get the idea. There are only 2 pure centre forwards in that list, and neither of them come from a country that has one of Europe's big leagues in them. And then if we go back to La Liga, you've got Ukraine, Norway, Poland, Croatia, Morocco. In Serie A, it's Serbia, Nigeria, Iceland, Belgium, Turkey. In France, it's Canada, Gabon, Georgia, Nigeria. In the Bundesliga, it's Belgium, Guinea, Bosnia, Nigeria, Croatia. Portugal's got Sweden and Congo, and just to get the idea here, right? In the leagues of Europe's biggest footballing nations, virtually none of the strikers are from those nations. And that's what Wenger was getting at with that quote. Like, he was wrong about the South American thing specifically, but the overall point was that these big leagues in Europe, these big footballing nations, aren't really creating strikers. And in fact, if you go back and look at England specifically, what they tend to do is they train the striker out of their centre forwards. Like, there's so much work done now on positional play, on your link-ups, on your tactical flexibility, on understanding space, on being a good presser, on playing false 9. There's very little done on just being a proper striker. They want them to be more than that, I guess, but in a way, that actually makes them a a bit less. But that brings us, and thank you for sticking with me during all of that, to Jhon Duran. He is not more than a striker. He is pure, uncut, $80 million street value goal-scoring brilliance. You look at his numbers over the last year, his chance conversion rate and his goals per minute are astonishing. And this stat here, his goals per 90 minutes, doesn't just put him in the top 1% of the Premier League, that's the top 1% across all of Europe over the last 365 days. And even here, when you allow other players to have their assists count towards this, he's still in the top 3%, despite having 0 assists. And the main reason for that is because he has not had these instincts coached out of him. He retains some of just the best goal-scoring impulses you could ever hope to see. You can look at almost any goal he scores for Aston Villa and find something in there that just is not teachable. And in the Bologna game, which is what's inspired me to do this video, right, it's this pinning of the central defender. Now we'll pause it just as Rodgers puts the cross in, right? This is where it's going to land. Now, if Duran does what you teach centre-forwards to do, get a bit of separation, drop half a yard away, and then try to run in front, the defender's going to beat him to it. He's that side. He won't let him run across him. He'll just grab again. Or more likely, just clear it, because it's right where he is. So instead, what Duran does is he just holds him, and he drags him the yards required to get himself a little bit of leverage in the space to get the shot. Like, genuinely, you would never ever coach that, because it's just such a rare scenario that in all likelihood you probably wouldn't win, or you'd be really likely to foul the defender. It's not something anyone's ever going to tell you to do. You just have to think to do it. And then the finish as well, you can see by how much further around he hooks his leg. He is going for that side, which again, instinctively, 99% of forwards would just want to get any sort of contact on that and hope it's too close for the goalie to react. Like, how many times have you seen a chance like this go here because it's just stick a foot at it and hope for the best, but not when it comes to Duran? His brain is different. Now, for his long ranges as well, it's also a combination of incredible ball striking combined with the fact that he just actually tries them. This little stat that the Premier League published shows that long-range efforts have been more or less consistently declining very steadily since the turn of the millennium. Like, we were getting 13.3 a game in 2003-2004, and now 20 years later, we are down to nearly half that. But again, if you go back to Duran's stats and you look at his average shot range, the reason he scores so low is because that's kind of backwards. That's a low score because it's a high number. And just think about it this way, right? If your average shot distance is like 15, 16 yards, then that means for every single effort you're trying to toe poke from around about 6 yards out, you're also having another one that you're trying to welly from like 27, 28 yards. My actual favourite bit of his stats, though, is all the physicality stuff, like the tackles, the blocks, the clearances, the aerials, when he's not particularly effectively used in Villa's system, which we're going to get onto. So he's not doing like a defensive forward role. He just throws himself into situations. If the ball's in the air, he tries to win it. If the ball's loose, he tries to win it back. Like, it is unrefined sort of physical carnage, but he's a unit and it helps him score goals. The best asset he's got, though, other than that absolute cannon of a left foot, right, is movement. Like, he's constantly working off the ball, constantly getting into different positions to give himself the best possible opportunity to score a goal. Like, if you look at this goal here, modern forward coaching tells you to continue this run forward, to push the defence back, to leave the room in behind, so if that cutback comes, somebody can get in there and they've got a better chance of scoring than you have. But Duran's like, no, because if I make that run and make that space, then I'm not in it. And I need to be in it if I'm going to score, so what's the point? He's not asked about decoy runs. He's not asked about making space for others. He's not asked about holding it up and waiting for the support. He's just trying to score goals. It's just like single-mindedness as an art form. Like, this is my favorite Jhon Duran goal, right? No centre forward now with correct coaching would think about taking a shot on here. This is sort of an option, and maybe this is an option. And what you should do with his back to goal is hold it and wait for things to sort of open up. But he thinks, no, I'm really good at just smashing it, so just going to smash it. The Liverpool goal as well. This is an immediate drop and go option if he keeps a hold of it because he's worried about Van Dijk, which he should be. There's an overlap to roll it off into. Then he can spin, but instead he decides, I'll get it under control and see if I can shoot. And even when he does get it under control and opens up the shot, this is an option for him, and this is an option for him, arguably better than the shot. And Callum Chambers, he wants to go because he's possibly in a better shooting position on his right foot. But no, not Jhon Duran. Those three players don't exist. He just hits it and it goes in. But of course, then if you look at his passing numbers, they are pathetic. Like 0 assists in the last year. Virtually no passes into the penalty area. Not one tiny thought in his head about putting a teammate in. If he is in the sort of position where a pass would lead to somebody having a great chance, then he knows that he's already got a good one. 0.04 expected assists per 90, right? And just to do some maths for you, right? With those numbers, if Jhon Duran played every minute of every game for Aston Villa in the Premier League, it would take him 25 games to get 1 assist. But of course, that doesn't matter because this is his goal scoring rate, and just to maths that in the exact same way, in the time it would take Jhon Duran to get that 1 assist, do you know how many goals he would score? 42. Thereabouts. And obviously it doesn't work that way, it's just data, and if he did play every game, it wouldn't be like that in real life. But his current conversion rates, based on the minutes he's playing, he would score 42 goals to every 1 assist. I love that. So then, Aston Villa have got on their hands one of just the most lethal finishers of a footing ball in the world. Why does he not start more? Do they not want those 42 goals? Well, my dear friends, and possibly one day lovers, I wouldn't rule anything out. The reason I gave you that Arsene Wenger quote is because there is a reason that is happening. None of the major footballing nations are coaching their strikers to play like a Jhon Duran because the game is now so much more structured and system-based. Ollie Watkins is an excellent finisher. On his day, the equal of Duran, I would argue, but he plays a far more important role than just scoring goals. Like Villa this season have been set up in this sort of 4-2-3-1 shape, but as with most 4-2-3-1s in the league, that is sort of their out of possession, just getting started. What they want to be in eventually is something far more dynamic and exciting. And that tends, sort of largely anyway, when they're in possession, to be this 3-2-5. But to get into that, Ollie Watkins has a really important role. He's constantly running off the ball to drag opposition defenders out of various positions to allow any of these 4 players to start to fill them. Like particularly this season, he's been doing loads of central running to push the centre-backs back and drag defensive midfielders with him, which is why Morgan Rogers has looked really good. He's been dribbling the ball through those spaces created by Watkins. Basically, the simplest way to think of it is that Ollie Watkins is constantly thinking about his position and his movement relative to all of his teammates, whereas Jhon Duran will be thinking about his position and his movement relative to the ball and the goal. I'll give you a bit of a weird example, right? Because I thought Villa were good against Bologna, totally deserved to win that game, but I wouldn't have said they were at their fluid best, right? And Jhon Duran's impression of link-up play looked like this. So this is his heat map, and you see a big splodge here, right? And that's because he kept dropping into this area, just with his back to goal all the time, getting the ball, and then laying it off right here to Morgan Rogers before turning and sprinting into the box. He did this, I think, 5 times, the exact same repetition of movement, because to him, that's what link-up play is. I'll come short and I'll get the ball, but because you're in a good position, I'll give it to you straight away, then I'll just run at the goal, and you can find me. Now, on the one hand, that is just terrible combination work, but on the other, it does show that he is learning this side of the game, that he recognises he's going to start having to add a few extra strings to his bow, despite, you know, that never having come up before. And it really hasn't. Like, Duran spent his entire adolescence and all of his development in Colombia, in South America, where they would have thought it was great that he was just banging in all of these chances. And then when he was like 18, he moved to MLS. Do you think any of the coaches at Chicago Fire were going to look at somebody who was already rated as one of the best young players in the world and would have said, oh, hey, listen, buddy, you're going to have to learn how to play false nine? No, I don't think that would have happened. I think they would have just let him do whatever he liked. So yeah, that is just like a little video on Jhon Duran and Aston Villa. The reason it feels like you're watching something incredibly special when he plays is because these days, you are. And I've got no doubt whatsoever that Unai Emery, being the terrific, fantastic coach and developer of footballers that he is, will make him a more complete, well-rounded centre-forward. But also, I think he shouldn't. Better coaching will undoubtedly make him a better all-round centre-forward, but I don't want that. I don't want him to be a better all-round centre-forward. I just want him to be just a really aggy, hammer it every chance I get striker, but they grow up so quick, don't they? Anyway, yes, if you enjoyed that, I did seem to have a lot of notes for that, but I can't remember making a lot of points. But please do subscribe to us here at FourFourTwo on YouTube. We try and cover as many teams and as fun players and all the things that everybody's talking about as we possibly can. You can get me across all the social medias at 𝗕𝗫𝗓𝗍𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗔𝗔𝗔 so if you don't want to miss that, you should follow me on things. The 442 socials, they're in the corner of the video. The anniversary shirt, the greatest football kit you've ever seen, that is still on sale. We've got a couple of those left. They will, in my opinion, be worth in the future £1 million. So you might want to invest. No doubt somebody in legal would have thrown a disclaimer in after I've said that. And yeah, fair, I guess. Bye.